I found my apartment key in my boss's desk drawer. He said he was just holding it for maintenance.
My boss started asking weird personal questions after I gave him my emergency contact information. I work at a big accounting firm in Chicago, 47 floors of cubicles and conference rooms. I'm just a junior analyst trying to keep my job and pay my student loans. In October 2024, HR asked everyone to update their emergency contact forms. Name, address, phone number, apartment details. Standard stuff. I filled it out and gave it to my supervisor, Mr. Bradley. A week later, strange things started happening. I got home from work on a Tuesday and my apartment door was unlocked. Nothing was missing, but things were moved. My mail was opened and restacked neatly. My laptop was closed but warm, like someone had been using it. I called my landlord. "Oh yes," he said, "your boss called this morning, said you were locked out and needed emergency access." Nice guy, very professional. I never asked my boss to call you. Well, he had all your information, lease details, emergency contact forms, said you were too embarrassed to call yourself. My stomach dropped. Mr. Bradley had used my HR paperwork to convince my landlord he was helping me. The next morning, I checked my desk at work. Someone had been through my things. My personal notebook was open to a different page. My computer mouse was on the wrong side. I stayed late that night and watched the security cameras through my computer. At 11:30 p.m., Mr. Bradley came to my desk with a master key. He spent 20 minutes going through my files, taking photos of documents with his phone. When I confronted him the next day, he smiled. "I'm just making sure my team members are compatible with our company culture," he said. "Sometimes employees have outside activities that could create conflicts of interest." What outside activities? Well, according to your internet history, you've been applying to other jobs, looking at apartments in different cities. That suggests you're not committed to your future here. He had been monitoring my computer, reading my emails, tracking my job searches. If you're starting to feel sick about how much your boss really knows about your personal life, hit that follow button, because what I discovered next will make you check every emergency contact form you've ever filled out. I also noticed you've been having some financial problems, Mr. Bradley continued. Late rent payments, credit card debt, that kind of stress can affect work performance. How do you know about my finances? Your apartment lease is very informative. So are your bank statements. You don't have access to my bank statements. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out photocopies of my recent bank statements, my credit report, even photos of my apartment interior. Your landlord is very cooperative when someone calls with tenant concerns, especially when that someone has all the right information to prove they're looking out for your best interests. I realized he had been systematically gathering information about my personal life, using his position as my boss to convince other people to give him access to my private information. "The thing is," he said, "employees who are having personal problems sometimes make poor decisions. They might share confidential company information with outside parties. They might not be trustworthy. Are you threatening my job? I'm offering to help you solve your problems. I have contacts in the building management company. I could arrange for your rent to be more affordable. Your credit score could improve. Your financial stress could disappear. In exchange for what? Gratitude, loyalty, the understanding that your continued employment and financial stability depend on maintaining a positive relationship with management." He was offering to fix my financial problems in exchange for complete control over my career and personal life. "I also noticed you've been using the elevator to the 35th floor quite often. That's where our client confidential files are stored. Interesting coincidence." "I have never been to that floor. Ever. I've never been to that floor." He showed me security camera footage on his computer. Someone who looked like me from behind, wearing clothes similar to mine, using my key card to access the 35th floor multiple times over the past month. but it wasn't me. Funny thing about security cameras, he said. They sometimes have technical glitches. Files get corrupted. Evidence disappears, unless someone makes sure the important footage is preserved. He was framing me for accessing confidential files while offering to make the evidence disappear. I have a choice for you, he said. Option 1, we have a conversation with HR about your unauthorized access to confidential files. Your financial problems suggest possible motivation for selling company secrets. Very serious allegations. Option 2, you accept that your personal and professional life are now interconnected with mine. I help you with your problems, you help me with mine. We maintain a mutually beneficial relationship. What kind of relationship? The kind where you understand that your apartment lease, your credit score, your employment status, and your criminal record are all things that can be adjusted depending on how well we work together. I quit that afternoon. Didn't give notice, just packed my desk and left. But the harassment didn't stop. My next job interview was canceled because someone called pretending to be my reference and said I had been fired for theft. My apartment application was rejected because my background check showed employment issues. My credit score mysteriously dropped 50 points. Mr. Bradley had created a network of professional sabotage that followed me wherever I tried to work. 6 months later, I was broke and desperate. I called him. I'm glad you've come to your senses, he said. I have a position available that might interest you. Same company, better pay, flexible hours. What's the catch? No catch, just the understanding that employees who appreciate their opportunities don't ask unnecessary questions about company policies. I took the job. What choice did I have? Now I work in a department I never applied for, doing tasks I never agreed to. My paycheck is good, but I know it can disappear anytime Mr. Bradley decides I'm not grateful enough. Sometimes I see other employees who have the same trapped look in their eyes, the same understanding that their personal lives are no longer private, that their financial stability depends on saying yes to things they should say no to. And I wonder how many bosses have learned that emergency contact forms are really just detailed instructions for how to control someone's entire life. You think workplace control is bad? Wait until you hear about the building maintenance crew that was using their access to employee areas for something much worse than just gathering information.
Building in Toronto started scheduling their inspections when I was alone in the stairwells. I work on the 22nd floor of Nexus Tower, 36 floors of different companies. I usually take the stairs instead of waiting for the slow elevators. Good exercise, and I can think clearly during the climb. But in February 2024, I started noticing the same maintenance workers every time I used Stairwell C. At first, it seemed like coincidence. Dave and Mike from building maintenance, doing their jobs, checking vents, testing doors, maintaining equipment. Normal building operations. But then I realized they always appeared when I was alone. Never when other people were using the stairs, just me. "Hey there," Dave would say when I reached the 15th floor. "How's the workout going?" "Good morning," Mike would add from the landing above. "Beautiful day for exercise." Friendly enough. But something felt wrong about the timing. I started paying attention to patterns. They appeared in Stairwell C every Tuesday and Thursday around 9:30 a.m., exactly when I took my morning coffee break walk. They knew my schedule. One Thursday morning, Dave was waiting on the 18th floor landing with a clipboard. "Actually, we need to ask you some questions," he said as I approached. "Building survey about employee wellness and stair usage." "What kind of survey?" "Just checking if people feel safe using the stairwells. Any concerns about security, lighting, air quality?" "Company policy to make sure female employees feel comfortable in isolated areas." The way he said female employees made my skin crawl. Mike appeared from the floor above, blocking my path upward. "This'll just take a few minutes," he said. "Standard safety protocol questions." I was trapped between them on the stairwell landing, No easy way to go up or down without pushing past one of them. First question, Dave said, reading from his clipboard. Do you ever feel unsafe when using the stairwells alone? No, I said, though I was starting to feel unsafe right then. Interesting, because our security cameras show you use this stairwell at very predictable times. Same days, same time, same route. That kind of routine can create vulnerability. What do you mean? Well, Mike said, moving closer, someone who wanted to interact with a specific employee could easily predict when and where to find them. If this conversation is making you uncomfortable, hit that like button, because what these men said next will make you never want to be alone in a stairwell again. Second question, Dave continued. Are you aware that these stairwells have significant security camera blind spots? He pointed to corners where the camera coverage didn't reach, areas where someone could be completely invisible to building security. We're not supposed to mention that, Mike said with a fake laugh, but since we're talking about safety, why would I need to know about camera blind spots? Just in case you ever needed privacy, Dave said. Sometimes employees have personal conversations they don't want recorded. Office relationships, salary discussions, that kind of thing. We could show you all the blind spots. Make sure you know where to go if you ever need to have a private conversation. They were offering me to show me places in the building where no one could see what happened. Third question, Dave said, moving closer. Do you live alone? That's not a building safety question. Actually, it is. Emergency contact protocols. If something happened to you in the building, we need to know how quickly someone would notice you were missing. My blood went cold. They were asking how long it would take for someone to realize I had disappeared. I have roommates, I lied. Mike said, checking something on his phone, because the employee emergency contact list shows your address as a studio apartment. No roommates listed. They had access to employee records, personal information about where I lived and who would notice if I didn't come home. Fourth question, Dave said, moving closer. How often do you work late? Why? Building security protocols. We need to know which employees are here after hours when the building is less supervised. We've noticed you sometimes work until 8 or 9 p.m. Very dedicated, but also very isolated during those evening hours. They had been watching my schedule, tracking when I stayed late, learning when I would be alone in the building. Final question, Dave said, moving closer. How would you rate your relationship with building management? Fine, I guess. Good, because employees who maintain positive relationships with building staff tend to have better experiences, more help when they need it, more protection when situations arise. What kind of situations? Oh, you know, equipment malfunctions, security system glitches, times when the usual safety protocols might not be fully operational. We want to make sure you know you can count on us, Mike said. If you ever need anything, day or night, we have access to every floor, every room, every system in this building. They were telling me they could get to me anywhere in the building, anytime they wanted. Well, that's all our questions, Dave said, making notes on his clipboard. Thanks for your cooperation. We'll probably have more surveys in the future. Same time, same place. We know where to find you. I started taking the elevator after that. But then I noticed Dave and Mike hanging around the elevator banks on my floor, watching who got on and off, taking notes. I complained to building management. They said Dave and Mike were excellent employees with no complaints on their records. They suggested I might be misinterpreting friendly professional interaction. 2 weeks later, I was working late when the lights in my office section went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, but the main power was dead. I called building maintenance. Dave answered. Yeah, we're working on that. An electrical problem in your section might take a while to fix. You could wait in your office in the dark, or we could escort you somewhere with better lighting. I'll just go home. Actually, the main elevators are down too. Power issue. You'd have to use the service elevator or take the stairs. Which stairwell has working lights? Stairwell C has emergency power. Mike is stationed there to help employees navigate safely in the low light. They had engineered a situation where I would have to use the isolated stairwell with one of them helping me. I barricaded myself in my office and called building security. It took 40 minutes for someone to respond. When they arrived, the power was back on and Dave and Mike were nowhere to be found. The security guard said there had been no power outage reported, no electrical problems, no maintenance work scheduled. I quit the next week and found a job in a different building. But 6 months later, I was having lunch near my old office when I saw Dave and Mike having coffee with two women who looked terrified. The women kept looking around nervously, like they were afraid to be seen. One of them was my replacement at the old job. I never found out what happened during those maintenance surveys for employees who didn't quit. But sometimes I wonder how many women are working in buildings where the maintenance crew has decided that access to every floor means access to everything. That building maintenance horror was bad enough, but what I'm about to tell you next proves that sometimes the real danger comes from the people who are supposed to keep your medical information private.
The company doctor started asking questions that had nothing to do with my checkup. Our office building in Vancouver has a medical clinic on the 8th floor. Dr. Sarah Chen runs it for all the employees in the building. Free basic health care is part of our benefits package. Convenient, professional, too good to pass up. I went in for my annual physical in March 2024. Standard stuff: blood pressure, weight, basic blood work. Dr. Chen was friendly and thorough. But then she started asking questions that seemed odd. "How are things at home?" she asked while checking my blood pressure. "Any relationship stress? Financial problems?" "I'm fine. Why?" "Just standard mental health screening. Work-life balance affects physical health. Are you happy with your current living situation?" "Yes." "Good. And your family? Do they live nearby? Do you see them often?" "My parents live in Toronto. I see them a few times a year." She made notes in my file. More notes than seemed necessary for a blood pressure reading. "Any concerns about job security, workplace stress, conflicts with supervisors or coworkers?" "No, everything's fine at work." "Excellent. And socially, do you have a strong support network here in Vancouver? Close friends, people who would notice if you were having problems?" The questions felt invasive, personal, in a way that didn't seem medically necessary. "Dr. Chen, why are you asking about my social life?" "Oh, just comprehensive care. We've found that employees with strong social connections tend to have better health outcomes and better job performance." She finished the exam and scheduled my follow-up appointment. "We'll have your blood work results in a week. Everything looks normal, but we'll do a complete panel just to be thorough." A week later, she called me into her office. "Your blood work shows some interesting markers," she said, looking at a file on her computer. "Nothing dangerous, but some indicators that suggest you might be dealing with more stress than you realize." "What kind of stress?" "Well, your cortisol levels are elevated. That usually indicates anxiety or pressure. Have you been feeling overwhelmed lately?" "Not really." Sometimes our bodies show stress before our minds recognize it. I'd like to run some additional tests, more comprehensive hormonal panels, maybe some psychological assessment questionnaires." "Is that necessary?" "It's preventative care, catching problems before they become serious. Plus, your employer's insurance covers comprehensive mental health screening, no cost to you." If you're starting to feel uncomfortable about how much your company doctor really wants to know about your personal life, hit that like button, because what Dr. Chen showed me next will make you question every medical form you've ever signed. She handed me a tablet with a psychological questionnaire. Just standard screening questions. Take your time. The questions started normal. How often do you feel sad or anxious? Do you have trouble sleeping? But then they got specific, really specific. Have you ever disagreed with a supervisor's decision? Do you sometimes question company policies? Have you ever considered reporting workplace issues to outside authorities? Dr. Chen, these questions seem more about my job than my health. Mental health and workplace satisfaction are closely connected. Employees who are unhappy at work often develop physical symptoms, depression, anxiety, even immune system problems. But you're asking me if I've ever disagreed with my boss? Well, chronic workplace conflict can manifest as stress-related illness. If you're having ongoing disputes with management, that could explain your elevated cortisol levels. She pulled up more test results on her computer. Actually, your hormone level suggests someone who might be predisposed to, let's call it, whistleblower syndrome. The psychological profile of people who become obsessed with reporting minor workplace issues. That's a real medical condition? Oh yes, very well documented. People with certain biochemical markers tend to see problems where none exist. They become convinced their employers are doing something wrong. It can escalate to paranoid behavior, false accusations, even legal action against perfectly innocent companies. What are you saying? I'm saying your blood work indicates you might be at risk for developing this condition. But the good news is, it's treatable. She opened a drawer and pulled out several prescription bottles. These medications can help regulate the brain chemistry that leads to workplace paranoia, reduce anxiety, improve mood, and most importantly, help you see situations more objectively. You want to put me on medication because I might disagree with my boss someday? I want to prevent you from developing a serious psychological condition that could destroy your career and your health. She handed me the prescription bottles. The interesting thing about this treatment is that it's completely covered by your company insurance. In fact, your employer specifically requested that we screen for this condition and provide preventative treatment when necessary. My employer requested this? Companies are becoming much more proactive about employee mental health. They've learned that untreated workplace anxiety can lead to very expensive problems, legal issues, bad publicity, regulatory investigations. So they're paying you to drug employees who might cause problems? They're paying me to provide preventative mental health care to employees who show risk factors for stress-related disorders. She pulled up another screen on her computer. Your psychological profile also shows some concerning social isolation markers. Living alone, limited local family support, few close friends in the city. That kind of isolation can lead to poor decision-making. How is my social life a medical issue? Socially isolated employees are more likely to make impulsive choices when they're unhappy at work. Without a strong support network to provide perspective, they might overreact to normal workplace situations, like reporting safety violations or harassment, like misinterpreting normal management decisions as harassment, seeing discrimination where none exists, believing conspiracy theories about their employers. She pulled up more paperwork. I'm recommending you for our comprehensive wellness program. Regular counseling sessions, medication monitoring, and social support group meetings, all covered by insurance. What if I refuse? That's certainly your choice, but I would have to note in your medical file that you refused treatment for a diagnosed psychological condition. That information becomes part of your permanent health record. And my employer sees that record? Not the details, of course, but they do receive summary reports about employee wellness program participation for insurance purposes. I realized she was threatening to label me as psychologically unstable if I didn't agree to take medication that would make me less likely to question company policies. I need to think about this. Of course, but don't wait too long. Untreated workplace paranoia tends to get worse quickly. The longer you wait, the more intensive the treatment needs to be. I never went back to Dr. Chen's clinic. I found my own doctor outside the building. But 3 months later, I received a letter from HR saying my health insurance had been canceled
for failure to participate in required wellness programs. When I tried to apply for insurance through the government system, I was told my medical records showed a history of untreated psychological conditions that required additional screening. Dr. Chen had poisoned my medical file because I refused to take her compliance drugs. I eventually found out that several other employees had been through the same process. The ones who took the medication became noticeably more passive at work, less likely to complain about overtime, unsafe conditions, or management decisions. The ones who refused treatment found themselves with damaged medical records and canceled insurance. I never found out how many company doctors are running similar programs, but I learned to be very careful about what questions I answer during supposedly routine medical exams. That medical privacy violation was terrifying enough, but what I'm about to tell you next proves that sometimes the technology we use every day at work is collecting information we never agreed to share. Our office in Sydney started tracking more than just door access. In January 2024, Premier Corporate Center upgraded all employee ID badges to smart cards with enhanced security features. The building management said it would improve safety and streamline access to different floors and facilities. What they didn't mention was how much personal information the badges would collect. I'm the IT support guy for our floor, so I had access to the badge system's technical specifications. The new cards had RFID chips, Bluetooth capability, and even tiny motion sensors. Officially, they tracked when employees entered and left the building, which floors they accessed, how long they spent in different areas, but the technical manual showed much more sophisticated data collection. The badges recorded proximity to other employees, how long people spent talking to each other, who attended meetings together, even conversation volume levels and stress indicators based on movement patterns. They were mapping every social interaction in the building. I started paying attention to the data the system collected about me. Every day, I could see detailed reports of my movements, my social contacts, even my bathroom breaks. But then, I noticed something disturbing. The system wasn't just recording data, it was analyzing it and making predictions. James Mitchell, 73% probability of job dissatisfaction within 6 months. Risk factors: limited social connections with management, irregular lunch patterns suggest financial stress, frequent evening work hours indicate possible job searching during business time. Recommended interventions: social engineering to improve management relationships, financial assistance programs to reduce external stress, workload adjustment to prevent evening work time. The badge system was predicting which employees might quit, cause problems, or become dissatisfied, and it was making recommendations for how to manipulate them. If you're feeling paranoid about that ID badge you wear to work every day, you should be, because what I discovered next will make you want to leave your badge in a metal box. I dug deeper into the system's capabilities. The badges were collecting audio samples during conversations, short clips that were analyzed for emotional markers and stress indicators. They were listening to us. Not recording full conversations, that would be illegal, but capturing enough audio to analyze tone, volume, and emotional content. I found recordings of myself talking to coworkers. The system had flagged several conversations as concerning. A lunch discussion about wanting better benefits. A coffee break complaint about our manager's micromanagement style. A casual comment about updating my resume. Each concerning conversation was tagged with risk assessments and recommended responses. For the benefits discussion, suggest employee for financial wellness program to address underlying economic anxiety. For the management complaint, arrange positive management interaction to improve relationship dynamics. For the resume comment, monitor for increased job search behaviors. Consider preemptive retention offers.
The system was building psychological profiles of every employee and developing strategies to control their behavior. But the most disturbing discovery was the predictive intervention protocols. When an employee showed signs of potential problems, the system would automatically trigger environmental changes designed to influence their mood and decision-making. Temperature adjustments in their work area, subtle changes to lighting that could affect energy levels, even modifications to elevator wait times and cafeteria line speeds to create positive or negative associations with the workplace. I tested this by expressing frustration about a work project within range of my badge's audio sensors. Within 2 hours, my work area temperature had been increased to a more comfortable level. The coffee machine nearest my desk was restocked with my preferred coffee blend. My computer received an automatic software update that improved its performance. The system was rewarding me for complaining, trying to improve my mood before my dissatisfaction could escalate. But when I expressed satisfaction about a recent promotion, the environmental improvements stopped. The system only responded to negative emotions, trying to manipulate employees who showed signs of unhappiness. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of the data analysis, audio samples, behavioral manipulation protocols. I planned to report it to the privacy commissioner. But then, I received an email from HR. "We've noticed some irregular access patterns in your system usage. Please report to HR for a security review." They had been monitoring my access to the badge system data. They knew I had discovered their surveillance program. During the HR meeting, I was told that my excessive curiosity about security systems was a concern. My job description didn't require access to badge system analytics, so my interest in that data suggested possible security risks. "We're not questioning your intentions," the HR manager said, "but employees who spend time trying to understand systems they don't need to understand sometimes develop unrealistic concerns about privacy and surveillance." Unrealistic concerns? Well, sometimes people who learn about data collection technologies become paranoid. They start believing their employer is spying on them or manipulating them. It's a form of workplace anxiety that can become very serious. What if the surveillance is real? James, all modern workplaces collect some data about employee activities. It's for security, efficiency, and workplace safety. But healthy employees understand that this data collection is benign and beneficial. And unhealthy employees? Unhealthy employees become obsessed with privacy issues. They see surveillance and manipulation where none exists. They develop conspiracy theories about their employers. She handed me a business card. "We're referring you to our company wellness program. Dr. Sarah Chen specializes in workplace anxiety disorders. She can help you develop a healthier perspective on normal business operations." I recognized Dr. Chen's name from the building directory. She was the company doctor who several employees had complained about. What if I refuse the referral? That's your choice, of course, but continued access to security systems requires a clean mental health evaluation, for obvious reasons. They were threatening to remove my system access unless I submitted to psychological evaluation by a doctor who specialized in making employees more compliant. I quit that afternoon. But before I left, I downloaded as much evidence as I could onto a personal drive. Documentation of the surveillance system, audio samples, behavioral manipulation protocols. When I tried to report it to privacy regulators, I was told that employee badge systems were legal as long as employees consented to data collection in their employment contracts. I checked my contract. Buried in 40 pages of legal language was a clause consenting to workplace analytics for security and efficiency purposes. Every employee had unknowingly agreed to comprehensive surveillance and behavioral manipulation just by accepting their job. I never found out how many companies are using similar systems, but I learned to read employment contracts very carefully, and I never wear a smart badge without understanding exactly what data it's collecting. Sometimes I wonder how many employees are walking around with devices that know more about their thoughts and feelings than they do themselves. And I wonder how many workplace decisions that feel like personal choices are actually the result of environmental manipulation they'll never detect. If these office building stories have you questioning the technology around you, there's more darkness where that came from. But the real terror isn't in the buildings where we work, it's in the places where we live. Check out my compilation of rental horror stories and apartment nightmares, because sometimes the most dangerous predators aren't in corporate surveillance systems, they're the people who have keys to our most private spaces.